Hey everybody, Quantum back here again with another in-person deck profile, and today we're going to be taking a look at Sapphire Steel. So I'm only making this video because of the positive feedback that I received on the last in-person decklist video on Ruby Amethyst that I made. So those comments, those likes, and obviously the views really helped me in knowing what to make for you guys next. That being said, we are doing this right after work, so there's still some daylight out and my window is open, so hopefully you can see the foils a little bit better in this video. Now this one isn't fully foiled out, but hey, that's okay because, you know, we're mainly a Ruby Amethyst player, but I love Sapphire Steel as well. So getting into the deck list here, in the 1-drop slot, we play 4 Captain Hooks. This is your only 1-drop character, and it does play a kind of a vital role both early on and mid-game. I've talked about this many times on the Pixelborn videos, but Captain Hook being able to trade up as a 3-2 character actually has some application in the mid to late game where, you know, like 3 toughness characters, think like Merlin Goat, Merlin Rabbit, Mim Fox, Mim Snake, etc., that do end up coming down in the later games as well, is able to be taken out by Captain Hook. Also, it is a captain, which means it pairs with Mr. Smee very well, but we'll get into that in just a second. Our other 1-drops are 3 Develop Your Brains. Now, Moyen's list does run 4. I did cut 1, and I'll go over the reason why in just a bit. You'll see why. And we're also opting for 4 Popsicle, and the main reason for this is obviously because it's the best item probably in the game right now. Being a 1 cost that replaces itself, it can heal for 2, but obviously the main reason you play this is it's a very cheap option to banish for Hiram, and it turns the Popsicle into essentially a draw 3. So that's a total of 11 1-drops, and that is significant because one of the weaknesses, I guess, of this deck is the fact that it only plays 4 2-drops. So it's not uncommon for you not to be able to have a turn 2 play if you don't see the Mr. Smee in your opening hand or draw into it on turn 2. Now, this card is very important because it does put a lot of early pressure on your opponent, being an overstated 3/3 body for 2. If you drop it, especially if you get it with the Captain Hook, it means that when it quests at the end of your turn, you won't take damage. The other combination with this card is that if you're able to ramp out a Cogsworth along with it, even if you have the Captain Hook or not, if this card is exerted, it will not take the 1 damage because the resist 1 that Cogsworth gives the Mr. Smee will be mitigated with the resist 1. So that's also a nice little bonus there. But again, only playing 4 2-drops. So if you don't have a turn 2 2-drop in the Mr. Smee, you're hopefully playing out something else on turn 2, like one of your 1-drops, so that you don't just go with the turn unplayed, basically. In the 3-drop slot, our only character is going to be the Mickey Mouse. And yeah, these are 3 of the promos. Don't worry, guys. Everything is double sleeve, so we're taking good care of everything. We don't play too aggressively with our cards. At least I don't think so. But regardless, this is important because you definitely need to see your ramp on turn 3. That's how important it is in this deck. It really does rely on you getting out your turn 5 drop, which we'll go over when we get to the 5 curve, on turn 4. And so the Mickey Mouse helps you do that, along with the 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of the Fishbone Quill. So this is your turn 3 ramp. And you know, to be fair, people have been talking about like, oh, let's out the Fishbone Quill, and that really slows the deck down. And it absolutely does. You are 100% right. But what this deck really cares about is just kind of getting that 1 turn ramp, right? If the Fishbone Quill survive, obviously they can aggressively dump their hand and just wheel away for fresh resources when they're like 3, 4, 5 ink ahead of you. But even if you out the Fishbone Quill, if they've ramped at least 1 time, the main goal of the Fishbone Quill is accomplished in being able to play that Beast Tragic Hero, that Cogsworth, etc. 1 turn early. So that is our ramp package on turn 3, and that's why that is important. I don't remember if Moyen's list played the Rise of the Titans, but we're opting for 3 of them here. This is a decent card to just instantly deal with locations. But more importantly, actually, again, if you've watched my Ruby Amethyst lists, the items are coming back into play here. The Maui's Fishhook, the not the Queen's Castle, the Spellbook actually is probably more impactful to take out with this card. Since you're not playing Benja anymore, you know, this card being versatile and being able to take out a location or an item can be beneficial. Seeing this in the later game as well, being able to deal with the Queen's Castle or, you know, any other locations that might pop up is helpful. But to be fair, like, locations can still be, or in the mirror match with McDuck Manor, right? But locations can still be dealt with challenging. So for that reason, like, you may even want to consider regressing back to Benja. I mean, both are inkable. Benja is at least a body that quests for 2 on the 3 curve as well. But like I mentioned, on 3, you're likely going to want to play your ramp cards and not the Benja. So again, Benja, just like this card, is something you probably want to see in the later parts of the game in order to deal with what threats might drop that these cards are applicable for taking out. In the 4-drop slot, I've opted obviously for 4 Hiram. This is I don't want to say your main draw engine of the deck, but one of the critical pieces for sure. And this is why Sapphire Steel is so versatile, because you have like 3 independent draw engines in this deck, all of which are extremely strong, and provide you just incredible card advantage. So obviously the Hiram, like we mentioned, pairs very well with the Popsicle and the Fishbone Quill, so you will likely be banishing your Fishbones off of this, because those are the only items that we play, a total of 8. So you can see that it doesn't really rely too heavily on the Hiram engine, but that being said, because there's so little item interaction in the game right now, usually when you play your item, your Hiram is going to be able to go positive off of it and draw your card. So you don't need to go too ham on the items. 8 should be enough, so as long as you see 1 or 2 that you can draw like 4 total off of your Hiram, 2 for every 1, you're doing pretty well. Also in the 4-drop slot, what do we want to cover next? I guess we'll go for the actions. Unfortunately, only 1 copy of a foil Along Came Zeus, but I might have another 1 and 2 coming. We'll see. But this card is absolutely ridiculous. Being 4 cost is kind of nice. If your Hiram doesn't have an item to banish on the second time around, you can sing this with Hiram, so you can play it for free. Obviously, your 5-cost characters that you will hopefully play out on turn 4 can also sing this the next turn if you need it to. But being able to deal 5 damage to a location or a character is very significant. It deals with opposing Beast Tragic Heroes. It's really good for that reason. It deals with Tinkerbells, right? It deals with Jafars. It deals with a lot of X and 5 or X and 4 cards that could be problematic for any deck to remove. But yeah, being able to take out ready characters with this, it's kind of like a cheaper Dragonfire. That's also a song to a certain extent. Obviously, it also deals with Maleficent Dragons as well, right? As an X and 5. But yeah, Dragonfire obviously can take out anything. But Zeus does a pretty good job at dealing with threats as well. The final 4-drop card is we're still opting to play the 4 McDuck Manor. This card is actually a pretty critical piece in the deck in my opinion, because it is your follow-up to the Be Prepared. Once you go wide enough on your board and you do eventually get board wiped, because your opponents, if you're playing against Ruby Amethyst with the Sapphire Steel deck, your opponents should not be like me where they don't draw Be Prepared out of 40 cards. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not that salty about it. But when that Be Prepared eventually does come, you've been controlling the board the best you can, and hopefully keeping your opponent off characters that could immediately challenge a McDuck Manor. But you dropping this is pretty significant because you can't drop a Maui and a Be Prepared in the same turn, right? So if your board is wide enough and you establish the McDuck Manor, your opponent has to choose, do I Be Prepared this turn or do I, Maui with Fishhook, right? Because they need both in order to take out the McDuck Manor. So if they do Be Prepared, they clear off your board, right? They likely get, 6 to 8 to 10 questing power off the board for you. But at least you're gaining 2 at the start of your next turn with the McDuck Manor, right? Then you establish some more threats. The next turn, the opponent has to probably say, well, I have to drop the Maui now, so their whole turn is going to be used, not the whole turn, but a significant portion of their ink is going to be used using the Maui, and whatever you played, the follow-up to Be Prepared likely survives, and that's how you end up closing out a game. That game plan is surprisingly strong, and it's probably how this deck can still be so effective. All right, I'm not made of money, so there's only 1 copy of Beast Tragic Hero here. Or 1 copy of a foil Beast Tragic Hero, but no explanation needed here, right? This is another one of your key draw engines, similar to the Hiram. You slap this down on the field. In other ink combinations that do not play steel, this card is very hard to deal with in terms of outing it, or not outing it necessarily, but dealing damage to it so it doesn't draw cards. Obviously, Ruby Amethyst has Teeth and Ambitions that they might play. They have Madame Medusa, etc., and those are technically direct answers to the Beast Tragic Hero, and then obviously other steel combinations can answer this, but in general, this card is very, very strong still, and if it goes 1 or 2 turns unanswered, it the advantage that it nets you is could be game changing. Also in the 5-drop slot, we have 4 Cogsworth. This is the card that single-handedly beats other steel decks. I don't want to say single-handedly, but how does steel deal with resist 1, resist 2 to all your other characters? It's really, really difficult. And this is why Sapphire Steel has such a good matchup into Amber Steel Song, and I guess technically the mirror match is a 50-50 too, right? But Emerald Steel and all these other steel decks, Amethyst Steel, Jafar, etc., right? Once you start establishing your board, if you have the Cogsworth up, what is your grab your sword deals 1 less, right? Or 2 or 0, right? Based on how many Cogsworth you have out. They have to out the Cogsworth. If you don't leave it, if you don't exert it, so they can't challenge it because it has ward, it's very hard to out. They have to essentially keep trying to ping it away. And again, if you have 2 on board, they give each other resist 1, right? If you have 3 on board, they give each other resist 2. And at that point, the game is just over if you get that many out. But yeah, Cogsworth is definitely a game winner against other steel decks. Moving on, we've got the 4 copies of A Whole New World, of course. Again, with ramping your hand out with Fishbone Quill. Even if you draw cards with Hiram, you draw cards with the Beast Tragic Hero, you're likely going to be able to continually dump your hand on board and into your inkwell, and wheeling away your hand for a fresh 7 once you're up on the ink and or board advantage. It's usually enough to end the game. This, in my opinion, is the most broken card in the game right now. It's just the amount of advantage that certain decks can leverage with this card. Like I said, you can be on like 9 ink, your opponent could be on 5. You wheel away everything, your boards are clear. You're just in a completely reset board state, and you have 4 ink ahead of your opponent. You both have 7 cards in hand. And you sung this or something, right? Let's say the boards aren't clear, but you sung this, so you still have all your ink available to play something out. It's just, the advantage you get off of this card is absolutely insane. It's like, Steel is so strong in every variation because of a card like this. If this card is not in the game, Steel is nowhere near as strong as it is. Moving on, we've got 3 copies of Grab Your Swords. Again, just one of your early game removal pieces. You can sing this out with the Beast Tragic Hero, with the Cogsworth, with Tinkerbell, with Gaston, etc., the other high-cost characters you play. One of your ways to deal with aggro, right? This card just shuts down aggro, shuts down discard. Very, very detrimental card in a lot of different matchups. You don't want to play too many though, so 3 I think is good enough, given that you have other forms of removal, like with the Zeus card, etc. So 3 is good so that you don't brick on it, and it's not necessarily always the most impactful if your opponent has a pretty tough board, like high toughness board. Moving on, only 2 foil Tinkerbells. I should have maybe invested in the 4, but I wasn't really too much of a Steel player back in set 2 or set 1. But yeah, Tinkerbell continues to be a critical piece in all Steel decks. Yeah, the 4/5 stat line, one of the best stat lines in the game, doesn't get Medusa'd, or 4/6 is better because this still gets Zeused, but coming down, dealing 1 damage to everything, and then just the threat of I'll crash into whatever you have exerted, take out another threat, deal 2 damage to it, whatever. Still very powerful for board control, and you have to think about demands and answer. You have to answer it. You can't let it go without without taking it out, because it's just that strong still. Moyen's list played 4 Gaston. I've cut 1 to go for 3 copies total. This card is actually pretty nice, especially if you ramp. You can technically get this out on turn 4. So if you play Fishbone Quill and you ramp once, and then on turn 4 you ramp again with Fishbone and Ink per turn, then you can play this out on turn 4. And there's very little that answers this on turn 4. Like, you need a Zeus, your opponent needs a Zeus on Steel, they need like a Dragonfire on turn 5 if they were on the play to deal with it. But the reason this card is so good is because, yes, it is a 4/4 body that quests for 3, so it also survives Medusa, but being able to dig for the cards you need is super critical, right? Like, you can have an opening hand, dump your whole hand except for the Gaston, and you're just like, I'm digging for that whole new world. I'm 10 15 cards deep into my deck, haven't seen one yet. You drop the Gaston, you dig another 3 deep. If you don't see it there, you're just that much closer to seeing the cards that you need in order to facilitate one of your, I don't want to say broken combos, but your like potentially game-winning combos, right? In terms of wheeling yourself into advantage, or digging for like a Grab Your Swords to wipe out an aggro board, whatever it might be. So yeah, this card, very significant and very impactful in the deck. And then finally, so why did we cut maybe like 1, Develop Your Brain? Why did we cut something else that I was running 3 of? I don't remember, but, oh yeah, the Gaston, etc. Well, I would like to have a little bit more versatility in the removal options, and Hades, usually if you draw it too early, obviously it's just going to be ink. Even if you draw it in mid-game, you don't want to ramp your opponent too much. You want to be able to play this card to out one of the biggest threats your opponent has. So the main thing that comes to mind is obviously the Steel Cinderella, where if Amber Steel Songs drops this card, it can be very difficult to deal with, as we saw in the finals of that big Pixelborn tournament. Moyen lost to this card, right? It was very difficult to out, almost impossible for this deck unless you have this. So yeah, only playing 2 copies makes it a little difficult to see, and wheeling them away or inking them with Fishbone if your opponent ends up dropping this can be difficult. At that point, you just have to race. But having that versatility to have the Hades in case you do need to out something that's a big threat is always nice without, giving your opponent too much of an advantage. So that is the deck list. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. We're just coming up to about 15 minutes. And yeah, like I said, I really do depend on this feedback in order to make these videos for you guys. So again, thank you so much if you made it this far in the video. Let me know if you're running Blue Steel. What are your tech options? Is your deck similar to mine? What other things are you running? I know people want to try to incorporate the Robin Hood package into this deck, and that is very good. But I just think the way that Moyen has built this list, because mine is very similar to his, is just, it's really optimized the way it is. So yeah, let me know again in the comment section below. But thank you again for watching, guys. Quantum is out.